Ever wonder if just one, like, really profound experience could actually change your brain? Like rewire it for the better.
Hmm, interesting.
Well, that's what we're diving into today, the world of psilocybin and how it affects the brain long term.
And we've got some exciting new research to guide us to, fresh off the presses from October 11th of this year.
Perfect timing. So, what makes this study so special?
It goes way beyond just asking, do people feel better after psilocybin?
Mhm.
This time we're looking at brain imaging to see what's actually changing up there.
Whoa, it's like getting to peek under the hood of our own minds.
Exactly.
Okay, so no more stalling. Let's talk about the big aha moment. This study found that the more your brain activity goes, I don't know, a little haywire in a good way, of course, during a psilocybin experience,
Right.
the more likely you are to experience long-term benefits to your well-being.
Yeah, that's right. They call it increased brain entropy.
Brain entropy.
It's like, imagine your brain usually hums along to a familiar tune.
Okay, I get that.
Psilocybin comes in and throws a whole jazz ensemble into the mix, creating this, richer, more complex symphony of activity.
So more brain jazz equals a happier you down the line. I like it. But how long are we talking about here, these benefits? How long do they really last?
Well, this study followed up with participants a full month later.
A month after just one dose.
Just one dose, and they still found these positive changes.
That's wild. I find fascinating. They used a clever trick in this study. They gave some participants a teeny tiny dose of psilocybin.
Oh, I read about that. Just 1 milligram. Right.
Yeah, basically acted as a placebo.
Exactly. And that tiny dose, no significant brain changes. Really goes to show how unique and powerful the effects of that larger 25 milligram dose were.
It's like, whoa, dosage really matters. But okay, let's get into how psilocybin might actually be working its magic on the brain's structure. They use some pretty high-tech imaging for this, right?
Oh, yeah, they used a combination of EEG, fMRI, and even DPI, which looks at the brain's white matter.
White matter, that's...
Kind of like the wiring that connects different areas of the brain.
Okay, I'm visualizing it. So what they find out about the wiring after psilocybin?
So think of information flowing through your brain like cars on a highway.
Okay, I'm with you.
Psilocybin seems to be changing the speed limits on some of those highways,
Interesting.
particularly the ones between the prefrontal cortex, which, as you know, is your decision-making hub,
Right.
and the areas involved in processing emotions and rewards.
So not a traffic jam, but like a shift in how efficiently things are moving on those specific pathways.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me more about these changes and how they actually impact our emotional responses. You said they were looking at emotions, right?
Yeah, so they showed participants images of fearful faces a month out, and what they saw was pretty interesting.
Okay, do tell. What was happening in their brains?
Well, they were showing less activity in the amygdala.
The amygdala, that's like...
It's essentially the brain's alarm bell for fear and anxiety.
Oh, right. So it's like psilocybin might be turning down the volume on that alarm system,
Yeah, exactly.
making people less reactive to those kinds of cues.
That's the idea.
Wow.
And remember, these changes were still present a month later.
A month later.
Really? Which, hints at the potential for long-lasting shifts in emotional processing.
That's incredible. It makes you wonder if this could be part of why psilocybin shows so much promise for treating conditions like, depression and anxiety.
Certainly a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. Now, this study focused on healthy individuals,
Right.
but it's a tantalizing clue that seems to align with what we're seeing in the broader research on psilocybin and mental health.
Totally. It's like opening a door to a whole new understanding of how our brains work.
It really is. And how we might be able to, influence our own well-being.
Right.
But hold on. We're not just talking about feeling better emotionally. This study also looked at cognitive abilities, right?
We are.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so they gave participants a task that measured cognitive flexibility.
Cognitive flexibility. So, how...
Basically, how well you can adapt to changing rules and think outside the box.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What did they find?
A month after the psilocybin experience, people were actually performing better on this task.
Get out! You're kidding!
Nope. It's like psilocybin gave their brains a boost in flexibility and adaptability.
So we're talking about potentially enhancing, creativity, problem-solving skills.
Potentially, yeah.
Think about how valuable that could be in everyday life, navigating a tricky situation at work, learning a new skill,
Absolutely.
or even just breaking out of those mental ruts we all fall into sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
This is huge.
It really challenges, our assumptions about how fixed our brains are and what's possible in terms of, cognitive enhancement.
It's like we have this incredible capacity for change and growth within us,
Yeah.
and psilocybin might be one of the keys to unlocking it.
Could be. And to be clear, this was just a single dose, and the study focused on healthy individuals.
Right, right.
More research is definitely needed.
Of course, of course.
But it raises fascinating questions about the potential applications of psilocybin.
It certainly does. Now, before we get too carried away with all the exciting possibilities,
Right.
it's crucial to remember that this research was conducted in a very controlled setting
Oh, absolutely.
with, careful screening, preparation, and support for the participants.
This wasn't just a casual, try this at home kind of study.
Exactly.
The researchers went to great length to ensure the safety and well-being of everyone involved, which is, paramount when we're talking about powerful substances like psilocybin.
Absolutely. So responsible use and the importance of context can't be emphasized enough. With that important caveat in mind, what are the big takeaways you want our listeners to walk away with from this deep dive?
I think the most important message is that even a single dose of psilocybin has the potential to create lasting changes in the brain. We're talking about changes in activity, changes in structure, changes in how we process emotions and information. And these changes appear to be linked to some pretty incredible benefits.
It really makes you think about, the power we might have to shape our own minds. Which leads me to something I've been wondering this whole time. If psilocybin can increase brain entropy and flexibility, could we achieve similar effects through, I don't know, other means?
Like what?
I'm thinking like meditation or mindfulness practices.
That's a great question. And you know what? You're onto something. There's actually growing evidence that things like meditation can lead to fascinating changes in the brain.
Really?
Yeah, we're talking increased connectivity between different regions,
Wow.
even changes in gray matter volume in areas related to focus and emotional regulation.
But we have this incredible capacity for change, wired into us.
Oh, well.
And maybe we can tap into it through different pathways, whether it's through these powerful substances or by training our minds.
It's a really exciting frontier, for sure. This research just opens up so many possibilities for how we think about mental health, cognitive enhancement, even human potential itself.
It really does. It reminds us to stay curious, ask those big questions, be open to new ways of understanding ourselves and the world around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It really does. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder. If a single experience can have such a profound impact on our brains, imagine the possibilities if we approach our lives with intention, curiosity, and a willingness to step outside of our comfort zones.
Love it.
What other untapped potential might we discover within ourselves? It's a question worth exploring. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of psilocybin and the always evolving, always fascinating landscape of our brains.
Always a pleasure.
Until next time, everyone, keep those minds curious and remember, the most amazing discoveries are often the ones we make about ourselves.